Yo, what's up, y'all? This is KJ Live. I'm KJ, Chris Johnson. Thank you for joining our show. I don't know if you were able to catch up with the show yesterday, but we had a great time. We were live on location at Slick Studios over there in Los Angeles. I was actually on location for a private screening of Raymond Lewis, LA Legend, a documentary about one of the greatest to ever grace the courts of the city of Los Angeles, the Verbum Day legend. Tremendous movie, incredible footage, awesome storyline. What I learned about the movie was that Raymond Lewis was that dude, about 6'1", 6'2", kind of guard, could score it with anybody, get to a spot whenever he wanted to, and he could absolutely shoot the lights out. Our next guest has a proven track record in the NBA for creating mutually beneficial relationships between his clients and corporate America. Today's guest has secured partnerships with national brands, including Reebok, Vitamin Water, Anta, Li Ning, and Red Bull. Currently, he represents several professional basketball players on the international and NBA level. In 2019, his client on the Toronto Raptors signed a 4-year, $130 million maximum contract extension. I am proud to welcome to Chris Johnson Live, the founder and CEO of Life Sports Agency, Todd Ramasar. Let's bring you in, baby. I appreciate you. Todd.
KJ.
What's good?
KJ Live.
Hey, I'm here. How you like that intro? How you like your intro?
I like it. I like it.
Man, hey,
you're always good for intros, man. The last 20 plus years I've known you.
Well, you're good for making me proud of you and actually accomplishing things the last 20 plus years. So it kind of makes it easy to intro you that way, buddy.
I think you should let your audience know about our background, man.
Hey, we're going to get there. We're going to get there, Todd. Hey, but let's start at the beginning. Thank you for joining the show. I'm going to kind of, we're going to start this from the beginning. So I just kind of want to give the viewers an idea of who Todd Ramasar is. Where were you born?
Southern California in Fullerton.
Okay. How was it? And is that where you grew up?
No. Grew up. My parents had moved from New York. They were immigrants. Dad got relocated from New York to Southern California. It was either Florida or New York, or excuse me, Florida or California. And my mom wanted to be in California for all the right reasons. And then that's where we ended up. My brother was born in New York. I was born here. And then I grew up in Norco, Corona area.
What are your parents' names?
Oscar, and my mom goes by Gigi, but her name is just Lynn.
Just Lynn. And what is their ethnic background?
Mom is from Haiti originally, and father is from British Guyana.
Talk about what your dad's profession was growing up. What did he do?
He was a telephone man, and he later became an administrator at their boarding cares.
And what did mom do?
Mom was an RN that eventually became, her and my father both own boarding cares in Riverside County.
That's awesome. So when did basketball become important to you, Todd?
My older brother always played. I grew up playing probably football more because my cousin that's 8 years older was, I don't know how familiar you are, KJ, with football in Inland Empire, but it's more of a Midwest feel. Ronnie Lotz from, Eisenhower. It's like big time football players, right?
Yeah. Come on.
Chris Claiborne. In high school, he was my teammate in basketball. But long story short, football was big, and then my brother started playing basketball, who's 3 years older than me, and then I just fell in love with the game. From
who was your favorite?
Probably about 7, 8 years old.
So 7, 8. Who was your favorite athlete at the time?
Magic. It was not even close.
Why?
Just watching him in '87 coming across the key, against the Celtics, like that iconic hook shot. I mean, I wanted to be like, that was my game, in terms of if I wanted to emulate anybody, it was Magic.
So you're saying you came into UCLA shooting hook shots across the key?
I could get you on the post. You know that, flanker off the glass.
Flanker was definitely key.
Baby hooks. It was a baby
Todd,
hook. It wasn't a sky hook, KJ. You know that.
no, it was nice. It was nice. It was very impressive and effective. I was shocked. But anyway, let's stay on target here. Todd, where did you go to high school?
JW. Well, Notre Dame, Riverside. My freshman year, I played with my brother, and then I transferred to JW North.
And you played for Mike Barty?
Mike Barty, who's still there coaching.
What did you learn from Coach Barty?
We did flex offense, but just like the nuances of the game. I had some good coaches, but really like understanding spacing, just the fundamentals of basketball.
Yeah.
Mike was really good at that. And then we were probably one of the more well-conditioned teams, I would think, in Southern California with just our routine.
Yeah.
Our assistant coach, who's now my father-in-law, had a wrestling background. So our conditioning had a lot of that integrated into it.
Yeah, and JW North is a very famous high school in the Inland Empire. Corey Benjamin, Sonny Benjamin, Ed Gray, Quincy Brewer, among others, we can count as alumni. Who was your favorite teacher in high school?
Teacher in academics?
Yeah, teacher.
Oh,
academics.
Mr. Machaka.
What did he teach? What subject?
Science, biology.
Okay, so why was he your favorite, Todd?
He was smart as hell, but like you could connect with him, and he always worked with me because science wasn't my forte. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it wasn't mine either, man.
And he loved basketball, so he would always kind of use analogies in basketball to explain science. And he's just a phenomenal individual. I still stay in contact with him here and there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So talk about UCLA. When did you first get on their radar?
It was my junior to senior year, Fairfax High School, playing this small private school with this player that was starting to blow up in Southern California that had this growth spurt. His name was Baron Davis.
Oh.
And I was like, who is this guy? But it was Fairfax High, the summer tournament they always have. And we were playing Crossroads. I hadn't seen Baron until the year before.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's the big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here comes BD, like 30 pounds heavier than the year before, and had grown like, Lord knows.
Yeah, that's when he got diesel. That's what he got. Yeah.
And he was bouncy at 5'8", so you can imagine now 6 feet 6'1" with that extra weight and athleticism. So,
sure.
Coach Romar was there. I want to say Coach Lab and Coach Herrick were at the game recruiting Barron, and I fouled out, but I had a double that game, and we won.
And who reached out to you? Who'd you hear from? Romar or Lab?
Believe it or not, Chris, it wasn't. They didn't reach out then.
Okay. Yeah.
What happened was they kept seeing me pop up throughout the summer because I was a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
It was after the Long Beach NIT.
Okay. And what happened at the Long Beach?
Say again.
What happened at the Long Beach NIT? How'd you play there?
Yeah, so we played Southern Cal. I want to say it was SCA.
Okay.
Chris Burgess, Shea Cotton. They were loaded. Chris Owens, like loaded team.
Sure.
And I had 0 points in the first half, but I want to say I finished between probably 27 and 32 points in the second half.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Dang, Todd. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. And SCA, for those that don't know, a very legendary basketball program out here ran by Pat Barrett. Always had them dudes. For you, who did you play for, Todd, in high school?
A small Alvin Hunter, Riverside Stars.
Shout out Alvin Hunter. Shout out Alvin Hunter, Riverside Stars. No doubt. Shout out. So let me ask you this, Todd. Why did you turn down a scholarship offer from Stanford to walk on at UCLA?
I mean, it's UCLA, Chris, for the same reason that we're on the air right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, KJ. I think I might have shared it with Toby. I'll never forget. It was my freshman year. I was at Notre Dame, and there was this Slam and Jam flyer. It was like this mustard yellow. And all these guys, there's like 8 guys on there in black and white. And it was you, it was Toby Bailey, J.R. Henderson, Tony Gonzalez, Ricky Price, and a few other guys. And it was like, you guys were like legends. And then you guys won the championship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I always grew up a UCLA fan. And for me, it was always academics and athletics. And I'm embarrassed to say this. Back then, I didn't really know Stanford like that. Mike Montgomery was there and Mark Madsen and those guys, but it wasn't UCLA, Great school, great coach, great program at the time, but it wasn't, fresh off of a championship And then having gotten to know Coach Lav and Coach Romar and Herrick, recruiting me, it was a no-brainer.
Take us inside the mind of an 18-year-old Todd Ramasar when the moment he found out that his roommate was Chris Johnson.
I was like, all right. I mean, you know me, Chris. I could get along with anybody.
So yeah, but I didn't really like you at first. And then you had a bad attitude. And you thought you were very cute and handsome, and you acted that way. But anyway, we're going to stay on track.
Oh, wow. That's a low blow.
Tell me about Steve Lavin.
What about him? Where do we start with Coach Lav? Coach Lav is
how you feel about Lav, man?
I love Lav. I really do. Because, I think, you as players, we go through our ups and downs, how we feel about our coaches and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The older I get, and I just had a conversation with Lav. I won't get into it, but I really, really appreciate Lav on so many levels. The older I get, if I'm not an agent, if it's not because of Lav. Lav was the one that got me my first internship with Arn Tellem. It's because of Lav, Mm-hmm. And I'm forever grateful for him even allowing me to walk on to UCLA and be a part of that class and all the friendships, everything that's developed since then. It's I'm forever appreciative to him. That's how I feel about him.
What was your favorite memory of your time at UCLA?
Well,
on the court.
Okay. It might be getting knocked out from you, Chris, and the nickname Frank. You sitting on my friggin' head on the hardwood.
Explain this.
Unconscious as an 18-year-old.
Take our viewers through what happened.
How can I? Why don't you, Chris? Because I was unconscious.
So this is what happened. Okay, so we're in practice. It's a very physical drill. I think it was war rebounding something. It was one of those things where you had to secure the rebound. If you didn't, you had to run. So a lot of us were doing whatever we could to secure rebounds in this drill. So it turns out Todd and I are going for a loose ball. Todd's got a lead on me, kind of. He dives for it, lands. He kind of gets it. I see him get it. I'm a little mad.
I didn't get it. I had it, but go ahead.
Okay. I'm a little mad because he was lower than me. He was a little faster than me, and I was really pissed off because I had to run. So I dove for the ball a little late. It was for the ball. I wasn't hurt, and I happened to land on Todd's head. So I landed on Todd's head. Todd's head accidentally.
You sat on my head, but go ahead.
The side of my body landed. So anyway, this is what happened. So Todd is unconscious. I'm slapping him. I'm trying to wake him up. I'm scared. I'm like, oh, shit. Todd is messed up. So then he starts to come to, So I'm like, oh, God, thank God Todd's coming to. And so sort of as, to see if he had his bearings and things like that, I while he was waking up, I said, hey, Frank, how you doing? He started answering questions.
I did not answer.
And no, he answered. He answered to Frank. He answered to Frank.
No. I started becoming conscious as you're calling me Frank, which, by the way, was the second concussion I had my freshman year.
Oh shoot!
And I forgot what was the first nickname you gave me, Chris. That one didn't stick. It was the second one.
It was Frank the Model. So your nickname now?
No, it wasn't Frank the Model. It was Sam or some regular.
You're making me sound like a madman. You're making me sound like a madman. Hold on. Let's get back on track. Well, there's the Frank story. If you go look in the comments, you'll see a lot of people referring to him as Frank, and so that is the Frank story.
If there's any other teammates on here, they need to join to not add to the story.
Frank Du Modular. Let me ask you this. Tell us about when you represented BD. How was that experience?
It was. I think ignorance is bliss because I was so green. You know what I mean? Yeah. Representing Barron. Looking back in hindsight, it's like I was in the business for 3 years. I was in law school, and here's a good friend of mine, teammate, somebody's at the top of his game, somebody that I admire and respect. Even as a peer. So for me, it was like a dream come true because I knew I always wanted to be in the business. And it wasn't representing BD was a partnership. It wasn't client agent for obvious reasons. We're the same age. So representing BD was like representing 5 players at one time. So you talk about getting your feet wet. It wasn't being green. Like I was thrown into the fire, repping BD. And it was amazing, amazing experience.
So Lav is in the chat, and he is shouting out the Frank story. So Lav, we did go over the Frank story. My version of it is really what happened, not Todd's. Todd, let me stay on track here. Talk about what you learned from Arn Tellem.
you know, with Aaron, it was excellence. You know, you don't realize it once you're in there in the office, when you're seeing the highest level executives come in on a daily or weekly basis. You know, I was one of 7 in basketball at the time, the youngest at 19. And to look back in hindsight, 5 out of the 7 are running NBA teams, right? And the other person, Thad Fouché, is actually at Wasserman as he's always been, has been a top executive with a tremendous amount of experience in this business. So Arn it was all about excellence.
What about, just talk about the effect that Bill Duffy had on your professional career as well.
Yeah, so where Arn was, I would say, probably more corporate because all the agents or junior agents were on track to go to law school and later became executives. Duff was more entrepreneurial. And I always said this when I was at BDA, is we didn't represent athletes, we represented countries. Because at the time we represented Steve Nash, who was obviously from Vancouver, Canada. In Canada wasn't a hotbed of talent, NBA talent like it was. So Steve Nash was the NBA to Canada. And then we represented Yao Ming, who is basketball to China and is more of a, you could say as much of a diplomat as he is and an ambassador than he is just a basketball player, right?
Absolutely.
Good times.
Describe your relationship with Pascal Siakam.
P is phenomenal. I mean, I always say if there's a case, there's the business side, which I'll say if you ask for a case study of someone that's done everything right and has listened to counsel, he has listened to it to a T. And it's obviously not taken away from his own greatness or excellence and work ethic, but he followed and took advantage of all the resources that were put forth. And then just on a personal level, man, he's one of the most down-to-earth, humble human beings that you'll ever find, right? Extremely competitive, wants to be great, all about teammates, all about team and winning. Like he's a winner. He's not about his statistics or anything else as it relates to that. And I can say that about not just him, all my clients. You know what I mean? Great guys. Yeah,
you have a very solid. Talk about Thomas Bryant a little bit.
TB is a future all-star. 6'11", 7'5" wingspan, shooting over 40% from 3. He has what most players or even bigs especially don't have, which is a high motor, which is like, that's gold. And you know this, Chris, as a player. You find a big with a motor and athleticism and ability to stretch the floor. It's incredible.
Yes.
But another humble human being, loves the game, is passionate about the game, incredible work ethic. And like I said, he has all the intangibles to be an all-star. I tell him that all the time,
Awesome.
and his best basketball is ahead of him.
Awesome.
Being 23 years old. It's disappointing. He tore his ACL this year, which would have been his breakout year. We saw a little bit of that in the bubble at the end of last season. But he's going to have a phenomenal season next year.
Yeah, no, he's going to be back. Life Sports Agency, talk about how COVID has affected your player evaluation process as far as recruiting or anything associated with that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think in some ways it's even the playing field because we couldn't go to games. I've been to one college game this season, right? Because in California you can't really go to games, and depending on which market you're in, you can't really go to games. And even the same thing with NBA at one point. So evaluation was mostly over watching games live or even going back to Synergy.
Okay.
But for me, Chris, it's like, and I give credit to you. I give credit to UCLA. It's one thing to evaluate a player. It's another to where you're practicing and playing alongside greatness. So my ability to identify guys with an it factor, it plays a major role. I don't need to see them live a lot of times.
Okay.
If I do see them live, it's to size them up. So when I saw Pascal, for example, at the time he was averaging 20, 10, and 2.5 blocks. When I already knew he was a pro based on his motor and things I could see. But when I saw him live after the game and stood up next to him, I could size him up to make sure he was 6'9", instead of listed as 6'9", opposed to
the
6'7".
6'6", yeah, six
Yeah,
six
you know, you
six.
size him up and you stand next to him, you're like, okay, this guy, really, he might be actually 6'10", right? And that's where I start exaggerating it.
No, that's
But that's the one thing I don't know, even with my recruits. Like, I know
okay.
they have game. I know in Zoom, which is great with the technology, I could have this dialogue with them and they could look at me eye to eye and I could, like, through the conversation say, okay, he's got it. You
Yeah,
know, this kid's got it.
yeah,
And then throw different things at him and say, oh, okay, this kid's a pro and is going to be in the pros for a long time. But I'm a big believer, Chris, a lot of times for players, it's not where they're ranked on the mock drafts. It's what are the intangibles they bring that'll translate to the NBA game. And
yeah,
then as an agent, the art, I think, of being a good agent is where do I recognize their talent and where can I put these high-level resources around them, whether it be sports science or Rico Hines or these great player development coaches, and then really just get behind them and then great things happen, which is, I think, evident from Pascal or Thomas Bryant or Kavan and some of my other guys.
yeah. But touch on that a little bit as far as your pre-draft process. You talked about Rico, the training, the diet. Now, do you have players that are going through this process right now?
No, just
Okay.
because the NBA season, one, we're still in, some of the guys are done, my prospects are done with their season,
Okay.
but we won't really get ramped up. And again, Chris, you know about this as a player. I tend not to start early because I don't
Okay.
want my guys getting burnt out.
Okay.
Because the pre-draft process is a roller coaster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to make sure that roller coaster ride is ascending
Mm.
to their career
Mm-hmm.
because it's an emotional time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my guys will get started later in April or even early May since the NBA season has been pushed back a month. So
Okay.
we can anticipate that the draft is going to get pushed back a month into the end of July or early August.
Now, you have a proven track record closing deals, the art of the deal. What makes you a good negotiator, Todd Ramasar?
Being honest, not doing favors, and taking no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's it. Like what you see is what you get. I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, in my career, Chris, I don't even know if you know this. Between Arn and representing Barron, I was in crisis management with Chuck Winter, right? Winter and Associates.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the one thing I learned from Chuck and his staff in crisis management is the best crisis management is avoiding the crisis altogether.
Hmm.
So what makes me a good, I think, good at negotiating is one, managing my clients' expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be informed and educated along the way so they know exactly what their value is and
Yes.
what we're trying to accomplish, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then on the team side, I think negotiation doesn't start when you're at the table. It starts day one once they enter the league, right?
Mm.
I'm taking mental notes on everything, like in terms of their coaches, their player development, you know, how are they being integrated into the offense? What's their
Sure.
usage rates, their touches? And then just taking all forms of data. And then here's the other thing is knowing my clients. That's why player development is such a major aspect is I'm helping my players turn into those max players or maximizing their value because it's one thing to negotiate just to negotiate. It's
Mm-hmm.
another thing when you know you have something that you could quantify and you know their value is at the highest level. It makes
Absolutely.
negotiations that much easier. And then having the data behind it, the teams can't fight it.
Yeah. With the NBA trade deadline approaching, do you have any memories of NBA trade deadlines past that you might want to share with our audience?
Yeah, there's one in particular. Well, there's a few, but the one that was the most interesting for me was Austin Day. I picked up Austin Day the day before the trade deadline and got him traded literally minutes before the trade deadline ended and got him from Toronto to San Antonio, where
Mm-hmm.
he was won a championship a few months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
you know, BD from New Orleans to Golden State, Earl Watson from Denver to Seattle at the time when the Sonics were there,
Yeah.
Ryan Hollins with the Bobcats in a free agency year, got him traded to Dallas, and it was the first time Dallas beat San Antonio in
Yeah.
the playoffs, and then it ended up, you know, benefiting Ryan in terms of free agency, which he
Sure.
signed with the Wolves. But a number of different stories. I'm always proactive about my guys. I don't let my guys rot on
Yeah.
benches or in bad situations.
Yeah. No.
Anytime I can be proactive about getting into a new situation that's better, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do that, especially before their free agency.
And you spent time working with Lakers Vice President of Basketball Ops and General Manager Rob Pelinka, correct?
I did.
How was that experience?
It was good because Rob at the time was 29 when I first met him. He's 10 years older, and you could see how cerebral he was as an agent. He had just started working with Kobe maybe a year prior from me getting there. And you could see he really cared about his clients because, like, I'll never forget when Kobe was in between contracts. His Adidas contract had expired, and Nike was soliciting him over to become a Nike athlete. Rob would call me into the office with Sonny because Sonny was at Adidas at the time and asked me about, the Adidas gear and the plan that Adidas had for Kobe, and Kobe was planning on re-signing. And that meant a lot to me as a 19-year-old. And it said a lot about Rob because I think what Rob was doing, and even for me now in hindsight being older, is he understood that I was closer to the consumer that would be buying Kobe's gear
Absolutely.
than even him at 29, right?
Absolutely.
So what was my input mattered being a college student, especially a college student or student athlete from a certain demo that could give feedback. And I was being honest with him.
Absolutely. Talk about playing against Kobe Bryant. He'd come up to UCLA, obviously. Talk about your experience playing against him and interactions you had with Kobe.
Kobe was a different animal on the court, right? He used to come up to the men's gym with us, Chris, which I think there was one play in particular that always stood out to me. I think me and Travis Reed had him trapped in the corner, perfect trap. Our feet crisscrossed, and he couldn't get out of the corner, right? The third defender is a corner.
Sure.
He did some spin move, Chris, and before I knew it, in a second later, he was in the rim. And you could just see his greatness. BD had that back then as well, watching him at Rucker Park. But getting back to Kobe, watching him with him and Barron on the sideline after Barron came back from his knee injury, guys like that are gym rats that eat, sleep, and basketball. Like, he was just different. He shot the 3 air balls at Utah. I don't know if people realize, he was on UCLA's campus, right back in the gym once they were back from LA, right? So he was different, but you could see he beat to a different drum. Even back then, interactions in the office or interactions when I went up to his home, to bring him, whether it be items to sign or even gear that Nike might have brought to his home in Palisades. I had a lot of one-on-one with him, but he was a different cat.
Yeah.
I'd say that.
He was a different cat, but he was, as we all know, he was an animal at 6, 17, 18, 19 years old. I mean, for me as a 19-year-old and having this type of beast attacking you that was younger than you, taller than you, looked better than you, and had more game than you, it was definitely a doggone wake-up call. You know what I'm saying? It was like one of those things like, man, I gotta hit the track and try to, break 4 minutes on my mile to hang with this dude.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, Chris, like I said, as we get older, we find our purpose.
Yeah.
Some are fortunate enough to find it when they're younger. He knew what it was
early.
Then, you know what I mean? And I think that's a testament to him and his greatness. He knew exactly what his destination was going to be, right? And God rest his soul and
rest in
respect
peace
to his family. But like that guy lived life to the fullest until the end, at least from what I could see, and especially his love for his family.
And one more question, I'll let you go. What does Todd Ramasar do when he's not being an NBA super agent?
Family. For me, it's Chris, I wish I could show you this sign because I have a saying with people I work with. I say every day is a Monday, right? When you're growing a company and an agency, and like, I'm competitive, I may be laid back, or that's my, overall sentiment that some people have of me. I'm very competitive. I know what I'm trying to build. I know the doubters, there's been a lot of people, oh, why don't you join me? Or like, Todd, it's so hard to do. And it's this like, no, like, why? I've always kind of gone against the grain.
Yeah.
Or the status quo, even walking on to UCLA, and it's worked out great. So that's my purpose. That's why the agency is called Life. I'm doing it my way. I think success is different for different people, and it's just like, I'm not perfect, but I'm having fun doing this.
No, you're doing an amazing job, Todd. I mean,
I appreciate it.
just to watch your evolution, man, and to see you grow and see how big time you've become. You just make us proud, brother. I love you, man. Continue to shine, brother, because that's what you do every single day, my man.
Hey, KJ, I can say the same, man. When you reached out to me about being on KJ Live, man, I was all over it. I love it.
Thank you, man.
And for your audience out there, if you guys don't know, Chris, and these are my earliest memories of you, Chris, springtime, my freshman year, right? Spring break. Chris is the ultimate MC, and he was born to do this. Chris, you were born to do this, seriously.
Thank you,
and
man.
it runs in your genes. Obviously, we know Dad and everything, but like your ability to connect and just speak on so many different levels, not just even within sport, but just to blend in humor and everything else, man. I love you for it, man. It's incredible.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, man. Until the next time.
All right, my man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Ramasar. Thank you, my man.